Hey, good morning. Scott Luton, Greg White, and Kevin L. Jackson with you here on Supply Chain. Now, welcome to today's live stream. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing quite well. Happy Juneteenth, an
Thank you.
official holiday. We're all working on a holiday. That's how dedicated we are.
That is right. That is right. And Kevin, I got to share with you the obligatory message. You are on mute, sir.
I am. I am.
There you go.
But I really appreciate your dedication. And happy Juneteenth, everyone, from the birthplace of Juneteenth, Galveston, Texas.
That is awesome. And we're going to touch on an incredible event that you and your team had yesterday. And as I understand it, Kevin, yesterday is official Juneteenth, and today is when really most of the country and the business world is recognizing. Is that right?
Yeah, it's just like every federal holiday. If the holiday actually falls on a Sunday, you get that Monday, or falls on the weekend, you get that Monday off. Yep. So today is the official Juneteenth holiday.
Gotcha.
But it didn't.
I can tell you guys that for better or for worse, it's being celebrated in the usual American fashion by people going to the beach and swilling beer. But much respect for Kevin for what you've done, what Congress did, and in enacting and celebrating and uplifting and giving us a focal point for this thing, which, like Scott said, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too much. We'll talk about it later in the show.
Well, it's really cool. We're going to talk about that in the kind of the second half hour here today on the Supply Chain Buzz Digital Transformers Edition. So, folks, Kevin and Greg, we're going to be talking about a wide variety of stories from top supply chain tech trends to what I'll call an intriguing slink story. You're not going to miss that. And, of course, the special
slinky story.
Someone's going to be slinking away after that story.
A big special Juneteenth event that Kevin and his team led in Galveston yesterday. You're not going to want to miss. So stay tuned, buckle up, and get ready because we want to hear from you as well. We already see a bunch of folks chiming off in the cheap seats. We're going to say hello in just a second. But before we do, Greg and Kevin, can we do a little housekeeping? Can we do a little? Can we pay the bills? Y'all okay with that?
Don't let the light go out. Can't survive without cable.
That's right. So first up, we've been talking about this event, Greg, for quite some time. This webinar with our friends Madhav and Laura and the Coupa team this Wednesday, June 22nd. I can't believe it's already June 22nd at 12 noon Eastern time. And Greg, folks should not get wrapped up into the notion of sovereign supply chains because it's really about what?
Well, because it's really about the fact that hardly anyone knows what the hell a sovereign supply chain is anyway. But it's, if you think of sovereign supply chains as extreme reshoring, basically reshoring everything, for instance, a radical idea, mostly touted by one or two countries that have absolutely no chance of accomplishing it. But it is somewhere between nearshoring, reshoring, alternate shoring, and sovereign supply chains is the right approach for a number of companies, right? Some, frankly, will be stuck in relying on international supply chains, but there are some opportunities, and I think we need to talk about the reality of that, and the reality of the ranges and present it. Madhav and Laura are great resources to present the range of possibilities out there that might be right for your company.
Yeah, well said. And folks, we're going to be talking about not only the movement and why, and not just here in the U.S., as Greg alluded to. There's movements in India and the EU and elsewhere. But most importantly, we're going to be talking about what you must know and how it's going to impact some steps you can take. So join us for free this Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern time. Okay, and then finally, it's an honor, just like it's been an honor to collaborate with Kevin on some of the cool things he's doing. In fact, we've got an episode that we'll touch on being released a week from today. It's also been a high honor for our Supply Chain Now team to partner with our dear friends at Vector Global Logistics and to fuel these efforts of leveraging logistics for Ukraine. So these weekly production meetings, work facilitation meetings where we're trying to identify vetted needs and work with vetted transporters, logistics firms to get humanitarian aid in place, boots on ground in Poland and beyond. Already 3 or 4 containers have made their way across the pond to reach the folks that are really in need. And we invite you to join us on July 12th at 11 a.m. Eastern time for the next working session. It's moved to a monthly session. And folks, you don't have to, no one's going to put you, at gunpoint and make you donate anything. It's not like that. If you want to
not gunpoint, Scott, but
we're going to really make
there will be a point.
Giving, though.
That's right, Greg. What was that, Kevin? What was that, Kevin?
We're going to really make them feel bad for not giving, though.
That's right. You got to, of course, it goes back to Greg's comment. Hey, give any, just give of any size, but just give. But regardless, even if you're not in position, hey, join us as bring your kindred spirits, bring your market intel, or come and learn more about what's really going on the ground. July 12th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And again, the link for both the webinar and the link to the July 12th session is in the comments. Okay, so Greg and Kevin, before we get into our first story, we've got a slew of folks that are dialed in. Kevin, just to clarify, so Greg, of course, is from the Supply Chain Now headquarters in Hilton Head. He's probably tracking the index. I think it goes up to 29 ships waiting to get into Savannah.
That's
and
a key operational location for Supply Chain Now.
It is.
That's right.
34 as of this morning, Scott. It's getting
it's grown
really fast.
Yeah. And Kevin is on the road. I think he's been on the road some 22 days in a row. He is still in Galveston, right, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm still in Galveston. My underwear it's the third turn. Takes the third turn. You gotta keep track.
Oh gosh. Oh man. TMI. You gotta use the sink, Kevin.
You gotta use the sink.
Like all guys do.
So moving right along, no more Haynes talk or Fruit of the Loom or whatever your preference is. Let's dive into some folks that are here with us here today. Eric is back with us via LinkedIn from Ecuador. Eric, looking forward to your takes here today. Reese is tuned in via LinkedIn. Hey, Reese, let us know what part of the world you're tuned in from. Of course, Catherine and Chantel and Amanda, the production team is helping to make things happen here today. Thanks for what you do, Catherine. Kavan is back with us, Greg and Kevin.
Yeah,
outstanding.
Dialed in from Tehran, Iran, via LinkedIn. The author who coined the PhD who coined the phrase "the new abnormal." So, Kavan, great to see you here today. Hey, Phil, let everybody know where Gene is from. There, Greg.
He's from NA.
Yes.
Northern Alabama. Right?
That's right. That is right, Gene. Hope this finds you well.
Not LA.
No.
Yeah.
Not Lower Alabama.
NA
Northern
versus LA. Right?
Yeah.
Keep that stuff straight.
That is right. Not to be confused, those two places. But Gene, great to see you here. Ola is tuned in via LinkedIn. Ola, let us know where you're tuned in from. Eric, hey, just like here in the States, in Ecuador, it was also Father's Day. So, Eric, let us know what you did to celebrate the day. Dr. Rhonda.
Father's Day to both of you.
Oh, yeah. And
Thank
to you, Kevin.
And you.
I had the pleasure actually yesterday. My father was at the celebration.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
So I was able to honor him. Which was really special for me.
I bet. And where's your father live?
So he actually lives in just outside of Baltimore, Maryland, right? And he was visiting down here in Texas, and not actually in Galveston, but he decided to take a little side trip.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
special. Yeah,
it was really
very
great.
special.
Yeah.
Well, we have to sit down and interview Mr. Jackson Sr., I guess. We'll have to get the goods on how bad of a youngin that Kevin was back in the day.
No.
That's how he wound up in the military, don't you think?
Can't be telling my stories like that.
Let's see here. Well, speaking of fathers, my dad is tuned in. Mr. Don Terry Luton from Aiken, South Carolina. Great to see you, Dad. Happy Father's Day. It's good to see you this weekend. Hey, Mr. Mohib is with us.
Also a father, and a really good one.
In Wichita. Sunny today, Kevin, in Wichita, Kansas. And he says, happy Juneteenth, 2022.
There's more sun here in Galveston than in Wichita.
They get more than their share.
And they got a few extra degrees.
Yeah, a few extra degrees.
Shantara is with us here via LinkedIn. Hey, let us know where you're dialed in from. Great to have you here today. Reese obliged. He said he's watching live from sunny St. Petersburg, Florida. Great to have you here today. Mary Jane tuned in from Ontario via LinkedIn. Great to see you. And Shantara says, and I hope I'm saying that right, Shantara, let us know, from sunny California. I bet it's gorgeous there, huh?
You know, some people from the team here are from California, right? They got off the plane. They couldn't last like 20 seconds because of the heat and the humidity. You know, it's a lot different. Heat in Sacramento is different than heat in Texas.
I believe it. Well, hey,
true. You can sweat without moving in Galveston, right?
Yeah,
speaking of Texas, Dennis LaRoche from Needville, Texas is tuned in via LinkedIn. Great to see you.
I don't know what part of the state that is. Do you guys?
Yeah. Let us know. Is that
Google that one.
Yeah, we need to Google Needville, Texas. Okay. Well, folks, we got to get to work. And to everyone watching in the comments, regardless what platform you're on, we'd love to get your take on what we talk about here today. And we'll be sprinkling that in throughout the hour. But Greg and Kevin, are y'all ready to get to work?
Let's do it.
No.
Kevin's been working all weekend, which we can relate,
right.
Kevin. We can relate.
Isn't this a holiday?
Yeah, right.
So,
only 50 more minutes, Kevin, and then you're free for the rest of the day, right?
All right. So diving into our first story, where Dan Berthiaume, I'm gonna go with. Yeah, thank you, Berthiaume. So Dan Berthiaume at Chain Store Age is offering up the top supply chain technology trends thus far this year, at least according to our friends at Gartner and their analysis. So Greg and Kevin, I'm gonna name a few here from the article. Yeah. It's a good read. Y'all check it out. We'll be dropping the link in the comments. Hyper Automation 2.0. A lot of folks will probably need to know what that means. Well, the current state, as y'all might expect, anything automation leans heavily on AI and machine learning. But where the 2.0 comes in, it's supposed to lead to more of things like remote fulfillment networks and the like. Next generation robots. What sets them apart from the current generation? One of the things is how much they communicate amongst themselves. That's pretty cool. The security mesh, which we were talking about pre-show, it's a mesh is a good word for it. It's like a blanket that covers all aspects of your global supply chain to ensure there's no weak links. And we all know the value that's going to pose as more bad actors try to, shut things down for monetary gains and whatnot. But Greg, that was 3 of the things out of the list of, I don't know, 10 or 12 that stood out to me. Some of your thoughts here.
Yeah, I was surprised that nobody, as long as we're using, descriptive terms, I was surprised nobody used the term radical transparency, which is, maybe we feel like that's already been done, but a lot of these are necessary outgrowths of the fact that we've had at least 5% unemployment rate just in supply chain since 2019, and so many more jobs or needs have been recognized and created, and technology has had to take the fore in these things as people stay away from supply chain in droves. So I think it's inevitable that some of these things happen. I have worked with a company, Dr. Ko Nyakwu, at a company called Cosmico that allows robots, for instance, to work with and coordinate with one another, even if they're different brands on different operating systems, all of that sort of thing. So you don't have to be tied to a particular brand of robot, let's say, or operating system, just to give you an idea of the applicability of this. And of course, yes, taking technology beyond AI and ML into other technologies is really important. Autonomous, also mentioned in the article, I think is very, very important, because so many of these little beasties, the robots and whatnot, are going to be necessary, right? My opinion is that we will never solve the driver shortage, for instance, in ground transportation, and so we must depend on that. And frankly, I think in some cases it actually creates greater safety, not a concern for safety. So in any case, we'll see a lot of transformations, though. One of the things we have to acknowledge is that suddenly innovative technology companies are suddenly under the microscope to produce profit, or at least build a pathway to profit, which will, by its nature, slow the progress of innovation and disruption, because that's expensive.
Right.
And companies can't get away with advancement and innovation at any price anymore. So it's going to be an interesting, it's an interesting development over the years.
Agreed. Kevin, I'm coming to you in just a second. I want to pull this in from the comments. First off, Dennis, Needville, Texas, about an hour from Galveston, right down Highway 36.
Okay. Were you here yesterday?
Wait, let us know, Dennis. Were you at the event yesterday? Saeed is with us. Great to see you here. Let us know where you're tuned in from. And then finally, Rami is tuned in from Ottawa, which is, of course, Canada's capital, all via LinkedIn. So great to see you here today. Okay, so Kevin, what we're talking about here are some of the top supply chain technology trends here in 2022. I bet for you, it's like waking up Christmas morning, because a lot of it's all about digital transformation, right?
Yes, it's all about digital transformation. But one thing that we can't forget, and I've said this many, many times, you can't forget about humans in the digital transformation. And I was kind of disappointed that they didn't say anything about the humans in this automation thing, okay? For instance, everybody knows about robots. Everybody's scared of robots. But what about cobots, right? The robots that are designed to work in tandem with humans. That is a big area of automation, and very important area of automation that people really need to think about. It's great, as Greg said, that the robots could talk to one another, but the humans need to be able to talk to the robots, and the humans need to be able to understand what the robots need and want. I mean, they're the coworkers. It's not like you can't ignore your human coworker, so you can't ignore your robotic coworker either. And the other thing that it's really that I guess not nascent, but sort of hidden, that people really don't think about is the power of artificial intelligence and how it is affecting robotic process automation, or RPA. And this is really getting into the blending of AI with the Internet of Things. Like the robots themselves are part of the Internet of Things. And you think about SCADA. These are the pieces of equipment that are being run and managed, and they all are connected to the internet, and they all have to communicate with one another. And these SCADA is providing huge amounts of data and analytics, and those analytics are being sent to the robots, and they're managing the robotic process automation and RPA. So all of this is, creating a new environment,
right,
where humans have to fit in. Okay, so don't be afraid of it. You have to explore it, understand it, blend it. But more important, management can't forget the human. Don't forget the people when it comes to automation.
Love that. And while SCADA, I thought your some Texas swing was working its swing. Some Texas twang was working its way into your lexicon. You know, I thought we're talking Tony Hawk and Rob Deerdeck or something with SCADA. But you're talking about technology.
Good reference.
Hey, I try. We try. All right, really quick.
In case anybody didn't understand, well, SCADA is supervisory control and data acquisition, right? Okay. This is software applications that control industrial processes. Okay. All the industrial processes are controlled by these components that gather data in real time from remote locations in order to control the equipment and to manage the equipment based upon the conditions, the real-time conditions that the equipment are in.
Okay, a new acronym. We love new acronyms around here. Hey,
this is yes.
That's right. This is Shauna. I think Shantara goes by Shauna. So Shauna, welcome. She totally agrees to the points that you were making earlier. When digitizing supply chains, companies need the most help stretching their budgets, but having the right talent and the right tech are issues as well. Excellent point there. I believe this is Richard from Waco, Texas. Richard joins us occasionally here every so often. Great to see you here today. Clearly part of Evans Dispatching Logistics, Supply Distribution, Waco, Texas. So great to see you. All right. So Greg and Kevin, I want to move right along because in this next story, oh boy, folks, get your popcorn and Diet Coke ready because we're about to dive in. We're going to follow Greg's lead here. We're about to dive into this Slink story that hit the headlines Friday or Saturday. I don't know, but Greg and Clay and Amanda and I and a few others were all together this weekend. And we started sharing and talking about it. And gosh, the deeper you go, almost the worse it gets.
Yeah, so, the sneakier it gets.
So yeah, we should quick shout out before Greg kind of lays it out. Emma Cosgrove, one of the best in the business. She's now a Business Insider. She's the one that is leading the reporting of this Slink story. So with all that said, Greg, unpack this thing for us. Tell us more.
So Emma received these reports from people who had been working at Slink and recently felt compelled to resign because they hadn't been paid. So even though this company, and Scott, I think initially I may have misquoted the valuation. Let's just call it somewhere in the $250 to $500 million valuation range when they received funding of $60 million in February of 2021, appears to have difficulty making payroll. So, but their CEO, Chris Kirchner, has no difficulty in bidding for a $40 million English champion, which is their first minor league soccer team. They are a sponsor of the Dallas Stars, though they're $800,000 behind in their payments for that sponsorship. They have somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 or 7 PGA European Tour and LPGA brand ambassadors who wear, if you ever have watched a golf tournament in the last year or two, several have Slink IO. Justin Rose is one of them. Mark Leishman is another, and there are several others. But they're sponsoring that. They sponsor an IndyCar team, of which Kirchner claims Kirchner Autosport is also a partner, or he at least alludes to the fact that he's a partner with Michael Andretti of Andretti Autosport, one of the biggest IndyCar teams on the planet. And I'm sure I'm missing something. I'm sure that I'm missing something, but clearly that $60 million has not been spent wisely if people are not getting paid. And now the sponsors are not getting paid. And I just learned, though I think this happened a few days ago, that Chris unfortunately had to rescind his bid for the soccer team as funding. He couldn't wrangle funding for that. So, but look, this isn't about the money. I mean, the money is just a symptom of the problem. This is and I talked to a number, it's kind of a roundtable of other founders and investors that I talk to frequently. And this weekend, we talked about this culture of self-aggrandizing celebrity founders. They're more enthralled with the celebrity than they really care about growing companies. This, in my opinion, appears to be another one of those cases, much like Adam What's-His-Face from WeWork. And others who have been self-enriching and self-aggrandizing individuals at the expense of their companies, and in this case, at the expense of their people's paychecks, which I simply cannot live with. So I was compelled to share some of this information and also share what a good founder should really care about. Right? Results is the first thing. Second thing is results. And the third thing, I bet you can guess, is more results. And also where an entrepreneur or founder should place themselves in the order of things in terms of their importance. First team, then customers, then investors, then humankind, family, friends, etc. Then a whole slew of other people, trading partners, blah, blah, blah. Go down another 5 or 6 layers, and then maybe start thinking about yourself. But traipsing around the world, getting your picture taken with famous people, that's not leadership.
Agreed. Kevin, I'm gonna get you to comment here in just a second, but hey, Dr. Rhonda, it is very disheartening, especially with the folks, that are going without the wherewithal they need to pay their own bills as this is taking place. Sylvia, great to see you here today. Yes, PGA 2021 was on Kiowa Island in the Charleston area. And she also says, yes, Greg White, you nailed it. And I agree. And one last point here, and Kevin, I'd love you to weigh in. I saw Justin Rose. It was really strange as I'm watching the final round of the U.S. Open yesterday. And, of course, this story is already out there. I see Justin Rose, but he's in I think it was a credit card commercial. But he had his golf apparel on, and a big old Slink IO logo was on it. So it's amazing all the cross-pollination that goes on. But, Kevin, your thoughts here as we're talking about Slink and clearly failing priorities, I'll call it.
Well, to be honest, it sounds a lot like this other multi-billion-dollar organization that had a CEO that really liked to be in the limelight. I think his name was Giotti, the celebrity Don.
Oh, right? Yeah.
Okay. And it's so I don't know, people may not know, but he was an American gangster and boss of the Gambino crime family in New York City, right? And he was top, I guess, in his crafts, but he liked to be in front of the TV and in the papers, and he liked, the people to be writing articles about him, and it didn't do well for the mafia, right? I mean, the mafia famously really lost a lot of his power because he was just trying to
out there.
He was so out there, right?
Yeah.
So it's not good for anyone if the CEO only cares about themselves and only cares about being seen. I mean, marketing is important to business, but marketing isn't business.
Well, all right. Lots of t-shirtisms here. I want to share a couple quick comments, and I'm going to circle back on a key question from Atul here. But Sylvia says, hey, never let greed overcome you. Wise words from her mentor, Fred Chatty. Ngule probably agrees with what both of you are saying. And Atul here, Greg, I want you to weigh in here because you touch on this in your supply chain commentary that we've already dropped a link in. So Atul asks, what do you think impact of such news on valuations of similar companies in this space? Greg?
Yeah, well, similar companies would be these companies that call themselves digital brokerages, right? Which are really mostly just brokerages, but have been getting technology valuations. And I think it does not bode well frankly, for those companies, and it will probably accelerate the recognition of the realities of that business model, frankly. But it's not going to help any founder, and that's one of the things that I opened with was, founders. This is the last thing that founders need. Founders of technology companies are already being challenged to get eyes on profitability or get to profitability. The money that they so freely got at Slink has completely dried up. That's called growth equity. That money has dried up in large measure. So it's difficult to get, and you have to build an incredibly credible case to be able to get that level of funding. Now, I can't tell you the number of founders and executives who've said, I'm glad we closed on that round before all this happened. This is dangerous because this will, to the listener's point, will cause people to look askance at other founders. Right. Recently, Ryan, what's his face, another celebrity founder from Flexport, he was removed. He chose, I'm sure, to exit the CEO seat and become executive chairman. Other executives are, well-known, and celebrity executives have been given the opportunity to seek career advancement elsewhere, or other roles within the company. And this happens when there's a lot of froth in the market. People fall in love with the story. They fall in love with the founder. Masayoshi Son from SoftBank is well known to have done that 45-minute meeting with the founder of WeWork, who I will contend is a total scam artist, and gave him $1 billion. So this will cause increased scrutiny on even the most legitimate of founders, and I think it's unfair for these scam artists to reap the benefits of fame and maybe fortune. Although if you look at what people estimate, this is the good side of this, guys.
Wow.
If you look at what people estimate Chris's net worth to be for a company that he runs that is worth, let's just say, $350 million, his net worth is $5.2 million, which means he owns just over 1% of the company. Am I doing that right? Yes, 1% of the company. So, and that's a problem also, because when a founder owns that little of the company, then they are much, much less engaged in the success of the company. So that's also a mistake of the investors to allow that or cause that, maybe in their own greed, for that to happen, and then to take their eye off the ball and let this guy run roughshod over the people in the business and endanger their investment as well. I just don't understand it from a lot of measures.
So, Kevin, I'm going to give you
about all the sponsors not getting paid. It reminds me of another business model called Ponzi scheme.
That's right.
Maybe. I mean, it could be. I mean, it's these. I mean, these investors. They are MBAs at some of the best schools. Many of them, Wharton, University of Pennsylvania, the best business school in the world. And
just because you go to the best business school doesn't mean you learn anything.
But it's hard to get over on them. But you're right. Sometimes even they get caught up in the ether, as I call it. Right. They get high on the fun, or FOMO. Right.
Fear of missing out.
Right.
So a couple of quick comments here. Atul also says growth at all cost is out. We're back to growing with fiscal responsibility. Nicely said there. T Squared, great to have you here back with us here today. The mafia metaphor and the greed was on the mark makes me think of Bernard Ebbers of WorldCom or MCI.
MCI.
Greed and cheapness on roids will take a company out, T Squared says. Also,
there was a substance involved, I would guess, but I doubt it was roids.
Sylvia says, I have been accused to act like I own the company by a former employer. My response was, if you would act like you own the company, I wouldn't have to I quit shortly thereafter. So
Don't anger Sylvia.
yeah, don't mess with Sylvia Judy. Hey, Greg also mentioned the phrase "a sconce." That's the first time I've ever heard someone use that phrase in a conversation with me. I had to look it up, and what
Today
that
it's
means.
known as the side eye.
Yes, the side eye. So if you look askance at folks, you're looking with them with an attitude or look in suspicion or disapproval. ASKANCE. Very nice, Greg. Thank you for expanding our vocabularies. Between you and Kevin. Hey man, I'm gonna finally move on to the next level.
Pass English.
Also, yeah, pass English. Finally, do y'all know the first name? And maybe the general time frame. Y'all, Kevin mentioned Ponzi.
Yes.
Where did that start with? Any guesses here, Greg or Kevin?
I've read about it, but I don't remember.
No.
No Googling, Kevin. No
That's
Googling.
That's a Google point.
Charles Ponzi. And in the 19 teens and 1920s, I think in the Boston area was where Charles Ponzi was from, I believe. So anyway, all right. So we got to move on. And of course, y'all check out the story. Don't take our word for it. Y'all check it out via Emma Cosgrove from the Business Insider. That is the CEO that Greg references in the middle there as they're out at some game or what have you. But y'all check that out and let us know what you think. Okay. So Greg and Kevin, moving right along. I want to talk about
Nikes.
They are by yeah, thank you.
Wow, nice.
Eagle eye, Greg. So
okay,
Kevin, I've long said Greg never misses a thing. It's so true. You can't get anything past him. So
yeah.
So
my grasp for the obvious is incredible.
Right. And Amanda points out, thank you, Amanda. Charles Ponzi was an Italian immigrant. So he maybe just lived in Boston. Good point. But talking shoes. So Greg and Kevin, I've long time since college, 20 some years ago, been a New Balance customer. In fact, the only tennis shoes I've purchased since college have all been New Balance for various reasons. So I decided after seeing some of the styles and just trying to want to shake it up a little bit to become a Nike customer again. So this next article, and by the way, I'm very pleased. I didn't go the digital route and get it designed and all. I went to my local Dick's Sporting Goods, I believe, and I've been really happy with them. But Elizabeth Mixon and the Intelligent Automation Network are reporting on how the company is winning big from its digital transformation efforts. So here's a couple highlights. And of course, Greg and Kevin, I'm going to get y'all's take here. So digital channels now account for some 26% of Nike revenues, and they're growing considerably. So Nike, of course, has made a variety of investments over the last few years to be in position to meet the customer where they want to be met. So launching mobile apps, launching chatbots in partnership with a group called Laiye, I believe, Laiye. They've acquired Dialog last year, which is a data integration startup platform, which helps power Nike's immense data science efforts. Along those lines, you might recall that Nike acquired two predictive analytics tools, one by the name of Zodiac, and Greg, you'll like this, one by the name of Select, but with a C. Because as you always said, technology firms have to get creative with their spelling. So Zodiac and Select in recent years were acquired by Nike. And
what type of example are we setting for the children?
Right? With our bad grammar.
Yeah. Everybody's going to be spelling and speaking like me, Kevin. And Kevin, you'll like this. Nike has entered the metaverse last fall. They call it Nike Land, and it's hosted by Roblox. 7 million visitors just since November 2021 when they launched it. So they ain't messing around. In fact, I thought this was a Nike commercial, what I'm about to say, but it goes back to a Reebok commercial back in the day featuring Shaq. I'll say Nike ain't faking the funk on a nasty dunk with their digital transformation supply chain prowess. So last comment here, Greg and Kevin, what's the so what? And what is the so what? Well, from a supply chain perspective, as an article and clearly as the story is pointing out, one of the things that this digital transformation immense massive digital transformation has allowed for in the physical world is Nike is better able to pre-position its products in the right places at the right times so its customers can get the right stuff at the right price at the right time and be happy. Much like one of their newest customers in Scott Luton, right? I don't like talking about myself in third person, but y'all get it to what I'm saying. To have this product that I would have bought in my hometown store, I imagine there's just a little bit of data science involved there. So fascinating to see what Nike's doing. Greg and Kevin, I'll get your take first here. I think Nike was recognized by Gartner. I think they're one of the top 25 top supply chains in the globe. So, doing some really cool things. But Kevin, what sticks out to you?
So I'm going to start off with that metaverse part because, we're going to talk more about what I'm doing here in Galveston and with the June 19th Museum, but we actually have a digital twin of the June 19th Museum. And while we won't be launching the museum until next year, June 19th, 2023, we're going to use the digital twin to actually design the museum. And we're going to have multiple versions, and we're going to interact with the public to get their vote, what we should be doing, what we should not be doing. And we're leveraging the metaverse to improve our communications and our interaction with real people. So we can improve our relationship with the community, the global community. So the metaverse is a real thing. It's a real valuable thing. And this is one way we're like digitally transforming the whole museum experience. The second thing I want to point out is if you go read the article under the supply chain transformation, they say that Nike has expanded the use of Cobots, the collaborative robots. And they are, as we talked about in the first article, they're using demand sensing technology and inventory optimization platforms to increase the speed of order processing. So this automation or this hyper automation is everywhere. So don't ignore it.
That's right. Can't ignore it. Greg, I'm coming to you. But before I do, I want to, Marie Hirsch is with us. And Marie is a supply chain rock and roll star. I was able to sit down one-on-one with Marie a few weeks back. So great to have you with us here today. She says Nike has done significant work to protect their brand against devaluing. Note that they've grown their capabilities so that they could pull their product back into their own control, avoiding coupons and discounting that retailers love to toss about. Well said there, Marie, and thanks for being here. All right, so Greg, we're talking about the digital transformation, the massive digital transformation that Nike has been persevering through. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, they just made $31 million selling virtual shoes, didn't they? 20,000 pairs of NFT shoes that don't exist. They made $31 million.
They exist in the metaverse.
Right.
Called a virtual asset.
But that doesn't devalue the metaverse, right? NFTs are, there's a whole different, there is a great practical business usage, but like many things, we have to go through the, whatever you want to call it, early salad days of technologies before we find what the actual valuable use is. They are creating value for some people, but not really value beyond that. But in any case, I think this whole notion of digital twins is genius. What have I always said in supply chain? We predict the wrong thing. We keep predicting items. We keep saying this is how this pair of shoes sold. This is how this pair of shoes has a season or is growing or is trending down or whatever. But the truth is that's not what's happening at all. Look at any of the items surrounding you right now, right where you are. What are they doing? Nothing. What we need to predict in supply chain is the shopper and the ability of that the metaverse gives us, just like Kevin, you're experiencing. It allows us to create a product that is more marketable, or a combination of products that are more marketable, by allowing people to virtually try it on or test their lifestyle with these products, or in the case of Kevin and the Juneteenth Museum, to to present it in a way that will attract more people to the museum, and to continue to iterate that, and continue to learn that. What are we doing? We are predicting the actions of our consumers in order to be able to provide them with something they truly value and that they will give us money for. So finally, I think this is a transition to predicting the consumer, right? And understanding influence on the consumer, what influences the consumer to buy our product or visit our museum or whatever. So it's a genius usage of the metaverse from that standpoint.
Well said. And Kevin, I'm gonna get your last comment. Before I do, if we can, Amanda, Chantel, and Catherine, again, thanks for all that y'all do. If we could drop Marie's Hurst episode, that link in the comments, that'd be great. And then secondly, Greg, amongst the things, and one of the things that Marie's talking about is, a couple years ago, Nike left Amazon. And we could have a whole series dedicated to all of that. But it's really interesting, the changes that these iconic brands have been making to persevere through, these times we're in. Kevin, your final thought, or first off, are you a Nike customer as well?
Am I a Nike customer? Yes,
do you like?
I'm a Nike customer. I like that.
Yeah.
Always doing the swoosh, right? Well, hey, we got the swoosh here. So.
That's right. We have our own version of the swoosh. That is right.
That's right.
And for the army of lawyers at Nike, it does not look anything like the swoosh that you can find. Let me clarify. Say it a little louder.
We went a little too far there, right?
Yeah.
But Kevin, I love, as we've talked, on this digital transformers version of the supply chain buzz, I love your emphasis on the human factor, right? Even as big of a supply chain or as big of a digital transformation guru that you are, you emphasize always the human factor. So I'm gonna give your final thought here on this Nike story.
So we've learned over the past 2 years that using the past to predict the future never works. All right. Looking at your equation to what happened and how it happened last year don't help you tomorrow.
Right.
But with the metaverse is happening, what's happening in the metaverse is that the companies are establishing two-way communication with their customers, right?
Yep.
Real-time interaction. So they don't need to predict. They just ask, what do you want today? What do you want tomorrow? How do you feel? And that's the present, not the future. That's the present.
Well said. Finally, Nike, I don't know about y'all, but I went through a bunch of Nikes as a kid, back when Bo Jackson rolled out the cross trainer back in the 80s. If y'all remember that, of course, the iconic Jordans, but the Spike Lee commercials, all that good stuff.
Got to be the shoes, money.
Yes. Little penny, of course. But Nike.
We got any supply chain now. Shoes.
Yeah, that we should. We should check it out. But I always thought Nikes would run small. I usually bought half a size under what I did with other brands. That's at least from my perspective, folks. That's not the case anymore. They don't run small anymore. So, but fascinating to see what they're doing digital transformation standpoint. We got to leave it there. Let's move right along. And by the way, Peter Boley, all night and all day. Great to have you here. Congrats on all the cool things you're up to now. I'll leave it up to you if you want to share in the comments, but I hope this finds you well. And we also have dropped the interview with Marie Hurst in the comments. Y'all check that out. Fascinating chat with an intriguing supply chain leader. Okay, so Greg and Kevin, I love the chat so far. We're going to switch gears. On the front end, even though Greg didn't let it out of the bag, I just knew you were going to. We were talking about what Kevin and his team and lots of other folks, by all accounts, spent their Juneteenth Sunday yesterday doing. And Kevin, we got something special we're going to share visually when we get to that part. But tell us first, what's going on in Galveston yesterday?
So yes, as many of you know, I am working with June 19 Museum Incorporated. I'm actually the president of the June 19 Museum Corporation, And we've been working over the past year to launch a Juneteenth museum here in Galveston, Texas. So Galveston was the site of the final battle of the Civil War in the United States, the U.S. Civil War. And as many know, the Civil War actually was not fought initially to end slavery. President Lincoln famously said, he basically said, I don't care if they have slaves or don't have slaves. I'm trying to save the country.
Right.
And
it was because of the secession of the southern states.
Right.
Ultimately went back to slavery and a lot of other things. But yeah, right.
Yeah, right. So he just wanted to keep the country together. But it turned out to be a wonderful strategy, actually. He decided to release the Emancipation Proclamation. And what's little known is that the Emancipation Proclamation did not free all slaves. It only freed slaves in states that had seceded from the Union. And that it was economic warfare. All of the states in the South depended on slaves to run their economy. So he was basically cutting their legs out from under them. Although, President Lincoln abhorred slavery, he was acting on behalf as the president and trying to save the country. But so he released the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. But, if you're in the South and you're a slave owner, you're not going to go out and tell all your slaves you're now free. Right? So none of the enslaved people even heard or knew about the Emancipation Proclamation until a Union force would enter and liberate the city. So Galveston, Texas was the very last city to be liberated in the U.S. Civil War. And General Granger led the Union force that took over the city. So the enslaved population heard, due to a general order, because now General Granger was the marshal in charge of the region here, and he released what's known as General Order Number 3 in Galveston, which was a restatement of the Emancipation Proclamation, saying that all slaves were free. So these were the very last enslaved persons in the United States to become free, and that happened over 2.5 years after the original Emancipation Proclamation in 1865 here in Galveston, Texas on June 19th. So that is the origination of June 19th. So we're going to put we christened a building here, which is a custom house. So in 1861, just prior to the Civil War, the United States built a custom house and courthouse here in Galveston, Texas. It was the very first federal building to be built in Texas by the U.S. government. And I don't know what to call it, ironic or what, but customs is where you go pay taxes when you are doing basically international trade.
Right.
And slavery was international trade. So you would come to the custom house to pay taxes on the humans that you are buying from the Middle Passage. But we are transforming this location into a museum that will be dedicated to inclusion and diversity and the elimination of the modern slavery or human trafficking. And in fact, in 1865, when Juneteenth was born, there were approximately 20,000 slaves in the world. Today, there are over 40,000 slaves in the world. So we are really excited. We had the mayor of Galveston here. We had the council member Sharon Lewis, who our museum is located in the district here. We christened the building. We'll be renovating for the next year and opening the museum in Juneteenth 2023. But we were also honored to have address us Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee of the 18th district, our congressional district here in Texas. And we were entered in the congressional record for our work and the christening of the June 19th museum.
Man, that is unbelievable in many ways. Going back to a data point, because Kevin, I bet when you said 20,000, 40,000, I wish it was that, but I bet it was 20 million and 40 million. Kevin, is that right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
that's right.
20 million back then, 40 million today.
Globally. So
Yeah,
and
globally.
as our friends Greg, Tim Nelson, and Hope for Justice have educated us, along with Kevin, on just how much modern slavery and global trafficking, not only how much is it's growing, and sadly it's a vibrant underground economy, but I think $150 million economy, Greg, here in the States attributed to trafficking alone. Greg, your thoughts on what Kevin has shared here today?
It's about time. I think honestly that was one of the aspects of Civil War, I guess, whatever you call it, history that I was never taught. I never knew that ever happened until maybe a year or two ago, when Kevin started describing that to us. So fascinating, not surprising, but interesting. In the times of information then, though I'm sure that whoever was in control at that time just simply ignored the executive order by President Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Not surprising that you could get away with that, but certainly time that was rectified, and I can't think of anyone better to represent and help, uplift something so important in American history. So, Kevin, I'm proud to know you. Just proud to know you, and thanks to you and everyone else who has made this happen. Definitely appreciate it.
I'm just honored.
It's going to be a destination, certainly in Galveston, for more and more folks to come out, learn more about some of these things that Greg just was speaking about that he didn't learn, and that many folks didn't learn in their history classes. I mentioned Hope for Justice. I think I've seen
new partner for Hope for Justice. Actually,
that is wonderful. They're the most powerful nonprofit in the world, fighting to eliminate and eradicate human slavery and modern trafficking. Richard, I think this is Richard. Richard says he visits Galveston 6-7 times a year. So you got a new place to visit when you're down in Galveston. Sylvia says back on Emancipation Proclamation, it's actually one of the 100 questions in the naturalization test that folks that want to be citizens have to pass. That is really cool.
The Emancipation Proclamation thing, right? Not the Juneteenth thing.
No, Emancipation Proclamation. That's right.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So, Kevin, if folks want to learn more, and we touched on this certificate of congressional recognition, which is really cool. Folks y'all can check out the replay. We've dropped the replay to yesterday's events in the comments. Y'all check that out. But Kevin, if folks want to learn more about what you and your team are doing there in Galveston, where can they go?
So I would go to June19museum.com, and you can also actually learn about our NFTs. We have commemorative NFTs. Shut up, Greg.
we gotta get y'all. We gotta.
Yeah, well,
have to have.
You can get membership.
Can I get a real copy? I'm just kidding.
We're gonna have a NFT discussion between Greg and Kevin, and we're gonna sell tickets to it. But Kevin, that URL again was
June19museum.com.
Okay, y'all check it out.
You can
nice
always
looking
follow
site.
me. Great, thank you.
Yeah,
And you can also follow me on this little show called Digital Transformers at Supply Chain Now.
Man, you say little, it is blowing up. It is blowing up. We launched that show. I want to say late last year.
Yeah,
Kevin, does that sound about right? And it is shooting up. It is shooting up the podcast charts. I want to say it was top 200. Kevin.
Yes, actually, we were 86 in India. We got like 102 in the United States at one time. Man. So we're
that is wonderful. Wonderful news. We look forward to more big things coming out of the offices of Kevin L. Jackson. I'll put it. All right. So really appreciate your take here today. But Greg, I loved your supply chain commentary going back on the Slink story. I love kind of how you laid it out there. Tell me, when do you publish? How often do you publish that?
Yeah, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Today, that was actually an article that I had chosen separate from my newsletter, which you can subscribe to also, Your Day in Supply Chain. Again, I need to be better about getting the link out there, but it comes out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday also, and has some of the top supply chain news on it. So I'll try to be more diligent in LinkedIn. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, to promote that newsletter so folks can subscribe to it.
Yep, you got to, and you don't need to just subscribe. Folks, jump in there, and you got to follow or connect with Greg to do it. But jump in there and share your comment. Greg usually responds to just about every comment, and it might.
One thing you want to say about those, though, I'll tell you, the things you write about are so apropos and so important. I find myself reading them multiple times. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate that, Kevin, because I put a lot of thought into what I'm going to say, and sometimes, as you've seen, if you've read it, sometimes it's specifically on the topic. Sometimes it is what some trigger point in the original article makes me think about, or remains unsaid, or perhaps inadvertently misrepresented in the article, or not completely represented in the article. So
maybe not.
Thank you. Yeah, there's so much that we need to know. I believe in complete and total every single word of the truth, as people who know me know, and if you've read these things, you'll see. And I think that's important, particularly today, for us to expose the entirety of the truth and help people understand, in a lot of cases, the context of some of these discussions that we're having. So, said. Thanks, man.
Well said. All right. So one final word, going back to shoes. I'm surprised we didn't get more chatter about folks' favorite shoes. Julia said, and great to see you, Julia. Great. Thanks for being here. It's important to physically try the shoes from the customer point of view. That's right. No one wants to buy it and have to return it. But hey, these leading shoe companies are coming up with new ways of sizing it if you were to buy digitally. So, and in the store, we still have the tried and true thumb rule, at least if you're still growing with kids. If y'all bought kids, as long as we just bought Ben some shoes, my youngest, and as long as you've got a good thumb between his big toe and the end of the shoe, that's been around for, I don't know, decades. It still works, evidently. It's still the scientific approach to making sure it's a big enough shoe.
Love it.
Okay. All right, folks, make sure to connect with Greg and with Kevin. I agree with both of them. You're going to learn so much by following, connecting with, diving and leaning into their point of view and their expertise. So check out Supply Chain Commentaries with Greg. And of course, you want to follow him and Kevin for all things digital transformers, as well transformation, as well as June19museum.com. I get that right, Kevin?
Yeah, June19museum.com. Thank you very much.
Y'all check that out. And folks, whatever you do, hey, we got to act on these things that we learn, right? We got to walk through the windows and doors. No, walk through the doors of opportunity. Don't walk through the windows of opportunity. Walk through the doors of
Climb
opportunity.
through the windows. You walk through the door.
Leap through the window, climb through the window. Yeah.
But regardless, it's Monday. Regardless, it's all about deeds, not words. So on behalf of our entire team here, Scott Luton challenging you to do good, to give forward, and to be the change that's needed. And on that note, we'll see you next time right back here on Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
Like Kevin L. Jackson.